Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and as we begin a brand new week, it's time to talk about the meta. Since the mini set launched last week, typically a balance patch will come about a week and a half to 2 weeks after a content drop. So we could see some nerfs, some buffs, or maybe like we saw in the summer, absolutely nothing sometime either late this week or early next week. And I wanted to go through the meta and get my kind of takes on what I think could get changed. Be warned though, this is right before rotation, so I don't expect a big patch. Big stuff will probably come with rotation, the next expansion announcement, all of that. But there are certainly some cards that could be nerfed, certainly some cards that could be buffed, and also I think WoW deserves something too, to be honest. So we'll take a look at all of that. And if you enjoy the content on the channel, feel like I've earned your subscription, want to keep up to date for when we'll ever hear about that balance patch or no balance patch or buff patch or whatever, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like as it helps the channel out a lot. So looking at HS Replay front page, which takes all stats from rank standard, diamond through legend, used to be all rank. So this was like completely useless. It's still relatively useless, but it gives you an indicator that, yeah, we've got 5 classes in the green. We got 6 in, you know, not so much the green, and only Warlock truly kind of dumpster diving with Mage and Priest. And by God, we're going to talk about this in another video. Mage and Priest are dead on arrival next expansion unless they get some incredible stuff. Regardless, you can see on that level things are looking okay. I will mention though, because I do want to talk a little about Wild, because Wild we don't bring up a lot, but it's pretty rough where Warlock is very similar to the Arena, where Hunter with the Wolves is dominating, and then Arena on Wild, it's Warlock with like Paladin, Druid, Demon Hunter kind of hanging in there, but overall, it's very much a Warlock meta in that format. And I feel like it's kind of got to the point where, yeah, they'll probably need to address it. And we'll talk about what you could possibly do with that. But if we're looking at the standard meta itself, we look at like Legend or a Paladin. Again, the big winner of this mini set, that ramp spells really made that deck quite good. I've got 3 different Demon Hunter decks: Big Demon Hunter, Cliff Dive Demon Hunter, Aggro Demon Hunter, all doing really well. And then the more control-y mid-range Death Knights, you got Dragon Warrior, the Hag the Shaman, Aggro, Paladin, again, even another Demon Hunter deck in like the complete no minion DH. You got the Quest Warrior, Egg Warlocks up there, and another Demon Hunter deck, Broxigar. My goodness, Demon Hunter has a lot to play in standard, which will obviously make it somewhat of a nerf candidate. And you got quite a bit of rogue sprinkled in there, especially if you go to top 1k. I think it's a little bit more brave, like the Elise stuff, Cycle Rogue, all that. We'll see. Again, it's a lot of Demon Hunter. My goodness. But yeah, Ashamain Rogue, basically what, Elise Rogue and all that. It's a little less diverse than Legend, like always, but still a lot of stuff to play. So when you look at it from like a large scale, right, there's quite a bit of different stuff. There's no clear outlier, right? At top Legend, apparently no minion DH is the top, which makes, probably because it's targeting Rogue, and Rogue's really popular at top Legend. Like in B Rogue is 16% at Legend right now, and DH just farms Rogue. So it is a little bit skewed on that regard, I would say. But overall, yeah, Demon Hunter's doing really well. You can look at knocking stuff back, but a lot of the key stuff of these decks is rotating. So when we talk about possible nerfs, we're gonna break it down into cards that aren't rotating that you can look at now, cards that will be rotating soon that is likely just gonna, you know, not get nerfed, because we're gonna see those cards again. They're gonna rotate in less than 2 months, most likely. So it might be like, well, the meta is relatively balanced. There's no clear outlier. Like I said, again, like 55% at Legends, the highest you can find. At Diamond through Legend, it's not too crazy. There's lots of stuff. I could see them taking a very minor approach, and that would be my expectation, are some minor changes, and mostly to cards that are not leaving. So obviously, the big one is Elise. Elise is in like nearly 70% of Hearthstone decks. If you're not playing Elise, there needs to be a very good reason for it. Like, you know, no minion DH. I can't play Elise in that, but the majority of decks play it. Even Cliff Dive, which has super anti-synergy with Elise, plays it because she's just that freaking good that something feels like it has to give on this card. And the going first problem is still very prevalent in Hearthstone, where you curve it to Elise on 4, you play the location on 5. it's very strong. So maybe you make at least 5 mana. I would think that would be the most natural thing you could do. You could also just remove the copy option, which is typically by far the most powerful of the options, unless you're way behind, then you can't play it and copy something. Other than that, I don't know what else you can really do. I don't feel like anything else is super nerfable. It's either make her more expensive to make her harder to curve and not, reward going first so much, or hit that copy, and then all the other options are even more consistent. There's not that many. It's a tough card to balance, but I don't know, a neutral card being like the focal point of basically every constructed deck in Hearthstone is not super exciting, makes games very samey and very draw dependent on if I get Elise or not, and also would definitely hurt some of like the Burgle cards are driving people crazy in Rogue, which we will talk about because I do think there is some mention on that. Another key card, like we saw a lot of Demon Hunter, right? And a lot of Demon Hunter's good stuff is rotating. The whole pirate package is a big deal, like the location they'll be losing, turn policy they're going to be losing. I would say nerf this card, but it's rotating in a couple of months, so it's not super likely. One that I will just keep bringing up because I still think it's going to continue to be a problem since Blob of Tar is not rotating. Ravenous Fell Hunter. I just feel like it should require 2 separate death rattles to get those 2 copies. The fact you could just play a good 4 mana death rattle like we've seen with either was the Starship location, whether it was the Ball Hog, and now Blob of Tar, there's always going to be something, and this is just pretty darn silly to be able to curve into that, and you can even combo it even more ridiculously with Ferocious Fellbat. You can do the same treatment. These cards aren't rotating, and they are continuously meta tyrants that they've been nerfed around a lot. I think it might be time to, make it so you have to play 2 different copies or 2 different minions for it to get that full effect. I think it would still be a relatively strong card. It wouldn't just be so absolutely obscene. You could just play this on curve so easily. Maybe I want to play a 3 mana in a 4 mana death rattle, and then I could get both of those back right on curve. That would still be pretty darn good, but overall as it stands, it's just one that stands out. The remainder of Cliff Dive is rotating, right? So Cliff Dive DH will be going away. The big mana cheat stuff with Spirit Peddler is going to be going away. A lot of the key stuff in the other decks is rotating, so I just want to look at what's possibly not. And I don't think anything you would really nerf right now other than those cards. I don't. The biggest one would be Return Policy, where it would discover a friendly death rattle card you've had die this game or something like that. Like the Hunter card did back in the past, or destroyed so you could do it with the weapon, which I think was kind of the intention at some point. And the last card I'll really go over that's not rotating, that I feel like is just overtuned, is a warrior card. And I love me some control warrior, but at least the Crocalus is just too much armor for 1 mana. 10 armor when this card is mostly just a benefit, right? Improve your brawl, improve your card draw with 4 glory, even add 2 drops into the pool for that pre-spell, right? It's so strong. 1 mana, gain 10 armor. I feel like it could be 8, it could be 6, something like that, or make this 2 mana. But to me, this is way too efficient of armor game where it's so hard to kill those warrior decks, especially once they get past turns 5 and 6 when they can get that insane amount of armor. I just feel like this card, to me, at least particularly, feels overtuned. I feel like the dragon decks are losing some key stuff, so I don't think I would nerf anything in Dragon Warrior quite yet. Plus, at least if it got nerfed, I guess it would go just to the straight warrior decks, but they're losing a lot of the early game stuff. So again, I'm not super keen on nerfing things that would rotate. And another card I don't think will get adjusted now, and honestly, if Elise herself got nerfed, I think Deja Vu might not be nearly as such a frustration card where you get punished from Nightmare Fuel for having cards in your deck, and you get punished for having good cards in your hand by Deja Vu to get hand information, and it also costs 1 less. I just feel like something needs to give on this card where it's just so silly that you get hand information, you get a good card out of my hand almost always, and a mana cheat. I would just take it costs 1 less away. You're getting so much for 1 mana already. I feel like it doesn't need a mana cheat, but if Elise goes away, copying cards won't be nearly as effective, because at the end of the day, this feels like I'm really trying to steal Elise or that location. Sometimes they hit other good stuff, don't get me wrong, but it does feel like a card that's way better because of the meta than the card itself. So probably not a nerf candidate right now, especially if they hit Elise, but just something I wanted to bring up as, you know, a generational rogue hater who uploads a lot of rogue gameplay videos lately. I don't know what's going on. Ones that stand out in the meantime that you could nerf before they rotate, we've talked a lot about it. You can revert the buff to Hagatha, put it back to 5, give some breathing room to beat those decks. I always talk about Parent Sanctuary. Maybe you could make this 3 mana. I don't know. I just feel like, again, it's been a silly one, but again, it's so late in the game to kind of look at nerfing it. And again, Discover Hunter is absolutely obscene. You could look at nerfing Niall to like 4 mana, 5 mana, make the hero power 2 mana, or make alien counters cost more, the stats more. I don't think any of these will get nerfed, but these were things I would consider if they were sticking around, you could absolutely look at. And I guess other mentions that I don't think will get nerfed in the meantime, as this is still complained about all the time on the Hearthstone subreddit. It's the Colossus. Make it not go face, make it only deal one swoop, even though it's supposed to deal 2. And of course, Ziliax is in like every deck still. The one perfect module, right? Never got nerfed. The perfect module, twin module, those never got nerfed. You can bump one up by a mana, nerf some stats, but I just can't see any of those changes happening, but I did want to mention it. For Wild, though, I do want to mention Wild, where Warlock is dominant, but it's not just like one deck. There's a bunch. One in particular, a card that's just dodged nerfs forever and ever in Wild has to be Soul Barrage. Be able to cast it and just get free damage in all these decks. I don't know, you can't increase the mana cost, it does nothing to the card. You'd have to reduce the damage output on this or make it minion only or something. Like this with Expired Merchant has just been so strong for so long in Wild, and now you have the new weapon, Chrono Claws, which has started to pop up like I thought it might, and it's really helping that burn Warlock. It's something you could consider. There's also just Blood Bloom, the way it makes the whole Blood Bloom Batmask deck. These type of cards are just so unhealthy for the game. I don't know what you do other than reworking the card or making it super expensive itself, so you can't cheat those things out, because again, really problematic type of card. And then you have Umbra, which just basically with the Egg of Kelos, it just summons it automatically when one dies. It is so ridiculously broken, whether it's Warlock, Druid can enable it, other classes can. I feel like this needs to be reworked where it only triggers when it dies. You could make it cheaper so it's not just a worse like Baron Rivendare, but like, I don't know, it's another one of those where I guess you could just make it way more expensive so it's harder to combo. I feel like Umbra would have to get reworked if they would want to look at Wild. And also my favorite class, which abuses one particular card in multiple decks that also be problematic, is Yssel, like this in like Barnes Druid or Malagos Druid. The amount of mana you can cheat with this, I feel like this card as well needs some kind of a rework where your spells that cost like 5 or less cost 1 or 6 or 7 or less. I don't know what you would do, but it's another one of those that's really warping in Wild. And of course, the elephant in the room, probably the best deck in Wild if played properly, and just again really problematic, is the Nazmani preset. Use light speed. Basically with Nazmani, this can come down to 0, recast it over and over on like Stone Does Bore. I feel like since this is rotating, why not just add Echo to it, so when it rotates to Wild, it can't go down to 0 anymore. Echo cannot be reduced down to 0. That would be something I would look at. Nazmani's probably the real target because it's always going to be an issue over time, but if they wouldn't want to hit that, yeah, make Lightspeed have Echo when it goes to Wild, and that would really solve some problems. And I will leave off with maybe some possible buffs, mainly to the mini set, right? You would think they would buff the mini set. And as we did our video, there's a lot of really underperforming stuff. Again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just not support, but something's gotta be done about Blessing of the Infinite, right? This imbue hero power is so bad. You could just make it every undead you play gains +1 attack. Would that really break the game? Would that even make it good enough? I don't know. Do you give it the Murloc treatment where it gets +1/+1? That's probably a lot more spooky. probably something they wouldn't want to do. Maybe you want a mana on that, but something, anything for that hero power would probably be the number one thing I would buff. A lot of these cards are just missing like support. They're not necessarily really big buff candidates. Like, you're not gonna buff this because it's good. Even in wild, it's not bad. You just need treants. I guess the big one is battle at the end time. Do you actually want to buff this to be relatively close to playable? It's not even like 30% right now. Do you just make this a full-on battle cry so you don't need it to die when you play it? You just empty their hand right away? Because you can't really buff this quest in its requirement. Like, there's no numbers, it's really hard to do, so you'd probably buff the reward. And I don't know, I personally just think this is a type of card that should never be good. I don't know why you necessarily want to make these cards, but if you were to buff it, I guess you make it a full-on battle cry. I don't know, it all spooks me a lot. But overall, I'm looking at these cards and none of them are that terrible. Like Bitter End, I would have no problem seeing this card go to 4 mana. It's pretty darn underwhelming at 5. You could even make like Synchronized Spark 3 mana. I don't think that would break the game, considering you have to kill an enemy to get that buff, which is pretty significant. Wings of Eternity could definitely just be Discover a Dragon from the Path of the Dark Gift. It costs 1 less because, you know, if Deja Vu has it, although I kind of want Deja Vu not to have it, this is just so much worse. Wild Dragons are brutal. Voodoo Totem could be a 1 mana 0/4 totem. Like, it still would be bad. You could easily make that 1 mana. For all time, could easily have just like 1 overload. Those are all possible buffs. The rogue cards are actually doing fine outside of this one. Could be overload 1 maybe, but again, do we need a buff rogue? I guess we would buff shaman, which does need the help, and I guess you could do that. Like, again, this is not a terrible card, just no support. And warlock, none of these cards are actually that bad unless you make End Time Survivor like a 4 mana 4/5, and even then it would never see play. And overall, again, I feel like a lot of these cards are relatively okay. They just need, you know, some additional support. Morchi could probably be 3 mana. I could see that, or make her stats better or something. Morchi's like the only neutral I would probably buff, because you don't want this to be good. You could argue this could be nerfed to 8 mana, and these cards are not particularly great. So neutral-wise, maybe Morchi, 3 mana, a bit better stats, and you're looking at, yeah, like some of these more expensive cards, the overload cards. But overall, I imagine we're not going to get some big sweeping patch right before rotation. That would be pretty unlikely, but certainly some maintenance could come in. Certainly some things could get changed up, and I think Elise really needs a change, considering, yeah, like 70% of decks, and she is not going anywhere. Anyways, let me know what you think should get nerfed, buffed, all that good stuff in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.